Now I'm at Fort Canning to talk about confined space safety. What is a confined space? A confined space is any enclosed or semi-enclosed space where oxygen deficiency is possible, where there's toxic and flammable chemicals and also a possibility of an engulfment. Why is confined space so dangerous? Where we have fatalities about 10% before the law is enacted. It is because confined space is an enclosed space and where the rescue is dangerous, where toxic and these hazards can change very quickly. And at the same time, it can affect people and the reaction is too slow to take. Now, who is responsible for confined space safety? The law imposes duty on the occupier of the land, the employer, the contractors, bosses, the contractors and subcontractors, as well as an authorized manager and also an assessor, supervisor, workers, attendant, as well as rescuers. Of course, as safety officers, we are also accountable. What exactly are the duties and responsibilities of a supervisors? I put them into 4 words. First, they need to carry out effective inspection. When there's unsafe condition and unsafe act, we should have them investigate thoroughly. Then they need to carry out a lot of implementation. The permit to work, the risk control measures, the in-house rules, the PPE requirement, all these are things that supervisors should implement. And fourth, we need actually the supervisors to be a good educator, the good promoter who set personal example to lead others to do safety. Now, what are some of the confined space hazards that we can have? We talk about physical hazards, including falling into the confined space. We also have energy sources like electrical, mechanical, ergonomics forces. We also have possibility of an engulfment. We also have a danger of things that is related to slip, trip, and fall. In terms of chemical hazards, we can talk about atmospheric hazard like oxygen deficient, toxic, flammable, as well as oxygen enriched environment contained in a confined space. But also there are chemicals that is in the liquid form. So again, there can be also possible danger. Next is biological hazard. Don't underestimate biological hazard because they have a life, and if these biological hazards go into our body, it can be very harmful to us. Now, what are the control measures that we can take in terms of confined space safety? First, there is actually a legal requirement for companies to actually set up the permit to work system. A good permit will help people to first recognize what are the hazards in the confined space and declare the control measures that they have taken to prevent an accident in the confined space. We have an assessor to go and assess and endorse a requirement of the confined space, then forward it to the authorized manager who will approve it, and eventually when the work is being completed, it will be returned to the authorized manager for filing. Now, besides the permit to work, we need to have gas detection instruments. We can have the gas detection instrument to recognize what are the current environmental issues in the workplace. Is oxygen enough? Is there any possibility of toxic and flammable chemicals? Now, third, also we need to have good personal protective equipment as a last line of defense. Evaluating personal protective equipment can start from the head to the eyes, to the ears, to the respirator, to the machine, the face guard, and also to the uniform, and to the reflective vest, to the harness, and then down to the safety shoes. Not forgetting that you also need gloves if necessary. Now, besides these PPE, we also need to deal with emergency. When we try our best to prevent an accident, there could be situation that we have an accident. So we need to know how to deal with the emergency situation. then there's actually rescue plan come into place. Besides rescue plan, how do we deal with fire? How do we deal with chemical spill? How about these medical emergencies? We should write it down in our emergency response plan. And then investigation. When things get settled down, we need to find out what is the root cause. And if we can get all these things put in place, then we will have a good program to prevent accidents in confined space.